Have you ever imagined meeting a celebrity by chance while doing your job, only to have your life changed by a simple act of kindness? Mina was an ordinary waitress in a small but cozy restaurant in Seoul. She had been working tirelessly to make ends meet, juggling long shifts and barely having time for herself. Every day felt the same: customers coming and going, some polite, some rude, but nothing out of the ordinary ever happened. That was until one evening, when a man in a cap and sunglasses walked in and quietly took a seat in the corner. Mina didn't recognize him at first, but as she approached to take his order, her breath caught in her throat. The man was none other than Kim Soo-hyun, the renowned actor loved by millions. Trying to keep her composure, Mina greeted him with a warm smile and handed him the menu. "Good evening, sir. May I take your order?" she asked, her voice steady despite the excitement bubbling inside her. Soo-hyun looked up from the menu, offering a polite nod. "Just a simple meal, please." "Whatever you recommend," he said with a kind smile. His voice was calm and gentle, nothing like the arrogant celebrities Mina had heard about. She quickly prepared his order and made sure everything was perfect before serving it. Throughout the meal, she kept stealing glances at him, amazed at how down-to-earth he seemed. Other customers whispered among themselves, some finally realizing who he was. But Soo-hyun remained unfazed, enjoying his quiet meal. As Mina cleared his table, she couldn't help but feel grateful for this unexpected moment. Little did she know, the biggest surprise was yet to come. As Mina picked up the bill and brought it to the actor, she hesitated for a moment. Should she say something? Should she ask for a picture? No, she thought, he must get that all the time. Instead, she simply smiled and placed the bill on the table. "Thank you for dining with us," she said, bowing slightly before turning away to give him privacy. A few moments later, as she returned to collect the payment, she noticed that the table was empty. Kim Soo-hyun had left, but something caught her eye. The bill was still there, with cash neatly tucked inside. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. At first, she thought he had simply paid the bill and left a small tip, like most customers did. But as she unfolded the receipt, her eyes widened in shock. The amount he left was far beyond anything she had ever received before. It wasn't just a generous tip, it was life-changing. Her breath hitched as she stared at the number, her mind struggling to process what was happening. Tears welled up in her eyes, blurring her vision. She quickly looked around the restaurant, hoping to catch a glimpse of him, but he was gone. The reality of the moment sank in, and Mina felt her knees go weak. Mina's hands shook as she looked around the restaurant, searching for any sign of Kim Soo-hyun. He was gone. The realization hit her like a wave: this was real. This wasn't just a dream. Her co-workers rushed over, noticing her stunned expression. "Mina, what's wrong?" one of them asked, concerned. Wordlessly, she handed them the bill, still struggling to find her voice. Their eyes widened as they saw the amount. This is insane," one of them gasped. Another waitress, Jisa, placed a hand on Mina's shoulder. "Are you sure this is right? Maybe he made a mistake?" Mina shook her head, her fingers tightening around the bill. "No. I think he meant to do this." The realization sent a fresh wave of emotion through her. She covered her mouth with her hand, overwhelmed with gratitude. Why would someone like him do this for her? She wasn't anyone special. She was just a waitress trying to get by. The restaurant buzzed with murmurs as more co-workers gathered around, some in disbelief, others smiling in admiration. The news spread quickly, and soon even the manager came over, raising an eyebrow at the commotion. "What's going on?" he asked. Jisa handed him the bill, and he inspected it carefully. His eyes flicked up to Mina, then back to the receipt. A rare smile crossed his face. "Well, Mina, it looks like your hard work has been recognized." Mina swallowed the lump in her throat. She wanted to say something, to express her gratitude, but no words came. For the first time in a long time, she felt truly seen. News of the generous tip spread quickly among the restaurant staff. Some shook their heads in disbelief, others beamed with happiness for Mina. But for her, it still felt surreal. She stared at the bill in her hands, her heart pounding. This wasn't just an ordinary tip, this was enough to make a real difference in her life. Enough to help her pay off debts, to support her younger sister, to breathe a little easier. Then, as she was about to tuck the bill away safely, something else caught her attention. A small note was folded beneath the cash. With trembling fingers, she opened it and read the words written in neat, elegant handwriting. "Thank you for your hard work. I see how much effort you put into your job. Keep going." Mina's breath hitched. She read the words again and again, as if trying to convince herself they were real. This wasn't just about money. This was recognition. This was kindness. Tears welled up in her eyes once more, but this time, they weren't just from shock. They were from a deep, overwhelming gratitude. Kim Soo-hyun had noticed her. Not as a faceless employee, not as just another server in the background, but as a person. Someone worth acknowledging. She clutched the note to her chest, letting out a shaky breath. The restaurant noise faded into the background as she took a moment to absorb the weight of what had just happened. She had spent years believing her efforts went unnoticed. But tonight, one unexpected gesture had changed everything. As the night went on, Mina remained in a daze, replaying every moment in her mind. She carefully folded the note and placed it in her apron pocket, afraid of losing it. Her co-workers continued to talk about what had happened, some jokingly asking if she planned to quit now that she had received such a tip. But Mina only smiled, shaking her head. This money wasn't about quitting, it was about hope. Later that evening, as she walked home through the quiet streets of Seoul, she couldn't stop herself from glancing at the note again. The words felt personal, like a reminder meant just for her. For so long, she had been working tirelessly, feeling invisible, feeling like no one truly saw her struggles. But tonight, everything had changed. When she reached her small apartment, she carefully placed the note in a wooden box where she kept meaningful mementos, a small gift from her sister, a lucky charm her grandmother had given her as a child. This note now belonged among them. She lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how a simple act of kindness had shifted something deep inside her. It wasn't just about the money, though it was a blessing. It was about being seen. About being valued. The next morning, as she got ready for work, she found herself smiling. For the first time in a long time, she felt lighter. And she knew exactly what she wanted to do next. Mina arrived at the restaurant earlier than usual, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. The tip had given her financial relief, but it was the note that truly stayed with her. She wanted to do something meaningful with this unexpected gift. Instead of keeping it all for herself, she decided to pay it forward. She set aside a portion to help her younger sister with school expenses, something she had always wanted to do but never could. Another part she saved for her own dreams. One day, she hoped to open her own little cafe. But there was one more thing she wanted to do. Throughout her shift, she observed her co-workers more closely than ever. She saw how exhausted Jisoo looked after pulling an extra shift, how their busboy, Taemin, rubbed his sore wrists after carrying heavy trays, how their cashier forced a smile despite clearly having a rough day. Mina realized she wasn't the only one who had felt unseen. During her break, she grabbed a small notepad and began writing. "You're doing great. Your hard work matters." She tore the page and left it near Jisoo's station. "You make people's days better, even when yours is tough." She slipped the note next to Taemin's water bottle. She continued throughout the day, writing simple, encouraging messages and placing them in spots where her co-workers would find them. It wasn't a grand gesture like Kim Soo-hyun's, but it was something. And when Jisoo found her note and smiled, when Taemin's eyes softened with appreciation, Mina knew kindness had a way of spreading. Mina didn't expect much in return for the notes she left behind. She simply wanted to pass on the kindness she had received. But what happened next surprised her. The next morning, she arrived at work to find a small note taped to her locker. "Thank you for always being so thoughtful. You make this place better." Her heart warmed as she read the message. It wasn't signed, but she had a feeling it came from one of her co-workers. Over the next few days, she noticed something incredible. The atmosphere in the restaurant began to shift. People seemed a little kinder to one another. Jisoo, who was usually quiet, started checking in on others. Taemin offered to help carry extra trays without being asked. Even their manager, who was known for being stern, seemed to be in a better mood. One evening, as Mina finished cleaning up after her shift, the restaurant's owner stopped by. He rarely spoke to the staff directly, so his sudden presence caught her off guard. "Mina," he said, handing her an envelope. "A customer left this for you." Her breath caught as she took it, her fingers trembling slightly. Inside was another note, and as she unfolded it, she recognized the familiar, elegant handwriting. "I heard what you did. Keep spreading kindness. The world needs more people like you. KSH." Her vision blurred with tears. Kim Soo-hyun hadn't just left her a generous tip, he had been watching, seeing how she chose to use it. Mina pressed the note to her chest, overwhelmed. One act of kindness had created a ripple effect she never could have imagined. Mina held the note close, her heart pounding with emotion. This wasn't just a message, it was validation. Proof that kindness could truly make a difference. She took a deep breath, blinking away tears, and smiled. Life had always been hard, and she knew challenges would still come her way. But now, she saw things differently. That night, as she walked home under the glow of the city lights, she felt lighter than she had in years. She thought about how a single moment, a simple meal, a tip, a handwritten note had changed her perspective. She promised herself that no matter what happened, she would keep passing that kindness forward. Whether through small notes, a warm smile, or simply treating people with compassion, she would make sure no one around her felt invisible. And maybe, just maybe, one day she would be the one to sit in a little cafe of her own, leaving a generous tip for someone who needed a little hope. As Mina entered her apartment, she carefully placed Kim Soo-hyun's second note in her wooden memory box, right next to the first one. A reminder that kindness wasn't about how much you gave, it was about how much heart you put into it. If you've made it this far, type "kindness lives on" in the comments.